in implementing information security, the very basics of what everybody has implemented, the idea is to establish security controls to ensure that our information does not are not affected by risk through unauthorized access, unauthorized disclosure, disruption, unauthorized notifications, or probably loss and destruction. Now, most companies have information security. It's a basic requirement of most organizations anyway. Um, for example, if your organization does depend on technology, definitely you have an antivirus software. Antivirus software is a very good security control, but there are other security controls that are as vital to protect the organization from losing or ensuring that the information is well protected. Now, oh, sorry. Now, InfoSec or information security is the basics of implementing or starting an ISMS. If you do have the basic practices installed, like access control, malware control, antiviruses, you perform regular backups, these are the basic best practices for information security. What we need now is to establish a systematic process of ensuring that these controls continually operate sa long term, sa haba ng panahon. And that there are actually people na tumitingin. They're actually looking into the controls and ensuring na they achieve yung kanilang intended purpose, which is protecting the information nila, which they claim is important sa kanila. So, hence, where comes yung term na information security management system, which by definition is a systematic process of ensuring that we establish an information security to protect the organization's information and information-related assets, to minimize it from risks and to ensure continuity of the business. Now, information security management involves a lot of parts or aspects of the organization. It does not only concern with IT kasi. So it is not per se an IT only system. An ISMS is holistic. It's enterprise-wide. If you intend to put up an ISMS, eventually you will be protecting the entire organization kasi. The controls you put are not all totally IT. This would include controls handling people, HR, human resource controls. It would include administrative controls. It will also include controls to protect you from physical risk. This will involve facilities management and infrastructure or administrative offices. So controls will span the entire operation of the organization. And that is what a true ISMS embodies. Now, for better understanding, an ISMS, if implemented, is a collection of best practices. Best practices to assure that we protect ourselves from risk. Now, most organizations do understand the basics of security controls, but tend to forget on how to govern or manage these controls. If you are lost or confused about how to implement an information security management system, then it is best to grab a copy of an ISO. The ISO 27, sorry, the ISO 27001 is the publication where you can find the collected international agreed best practices for establishing and implementing an information security management system. Technically, this is an ISO publication and kapatid ito ng ibang mga ISO tulad ng 9001, 14,000, 18,000, at lahat ng ibang mga management systems na probably meron kayo sa sarili ng mga kumpanya. Now, this standard was created to work side by side together ng ibang mga management systems at tinagay nyo. So if you do have a quality management system, information security management system should help support your quality management system in terms of protecting information used within the quality management system. So, 7001 does contain the specifications and requirements of putting up an ISMS. Now, organizations who do understand the need to protect themselves realize that if you do have an ISMS, may advantages yan. Naturally, if you have controls to reduce the possibility of risk in an organization, definitely one of the advantages is you will have customer confidence. Simply stating that you will have an enhanced reputation. Most organizations, because nagiging trustworthy sila, maaasahan sila that yung information ng mga customer nila ay naaalagaan at nababantayan, nagkakaroon ngayon sila ng advantage over other similar service providers o product providers. So, enhanced reputation marketing ang naibibigay of having an ISMS. Another one is it does address risk. And if you do address risk, inayos mo yung mga problema, issues, kusot ng kumpanya kung paano tumakbo dahil sa ISMS, naturally comes after yung operational effectiveness. Gaganda takbo ng opisina. Kung gumanda takbo ng opisina, mababawasan yung mga overtime, mababawasan yung mga rework, diba? O ipa-ulit-ulit na trabaho, redundancy, nababawasan na yun ang mga operational cost. Cost effectiveness, definitely nabibigyan ng ISMS. Now, nakakatulong din yan kung may ISMS kayo na mag-comply kayo sa mga dapat ninyong i-comply na mga legal, statutory, at saka underpin contracts. Importante yan. Ang mga kumpanya ay kailangan sumusunod sa kanilang mga regulating industries o regulating firms o government mandates. Kung may mga batas na sinasampa para sundan ninyo, tulad ng Data Privacy Act, then ang ISMS ang tutulong sa inyong itayo ang mga pangangailangan mo and to comply with the requirements of the organization.
Ted?
Yes, yes.
I think you mentioned the Data Privacy Act. Is it accurate to say that the ISMS or this particular standard actually evolved into Data Privacy Act compliance? We understand the Data Privacy Act is a totally different thing, right? It's a totally different regulation. But is it accurate to say that the Information Security Management System, or ISMS, actually evolved to Data Privacy Act compliance? Okay, what are your thoughts about it, please?
All right. The Data Privacy Act natin was created to protect a particular information. Personal information. Information nyo. Pangalan nyo, address nyo, birthday nyo, edad nyo, for most cases. Okay. Those are the several items that a person, a natural born person, finds na importante na pangalagaan. Now, pag nagtayo ka ng ISMS, pareho lang ang objective ng ISMS. Protektahin yung same information na sa inyo ay importante din. So, inherently, kung gusto nyo mag-comply sa Data Privacy Act, nire-recommend namin na mag-set up na kayo ng ISMS because one of the pillars ng ISMS is to address the requirements of protecting personally owned information kasi. But ang nanay ay yung ISMS, ang Data Privacy Act, ay isang batas lang na sinisigurado ng ISMS kailangan masunod at suportahan. Diyan nyo makikita where the Data Privacy Act is found.
All right. Thank you, Ted. Thank you.
Now, you have to remember, marami pang ibang batas, hindi lang yung Data Privacy Act. Meron tayong IPR law, meron tayong digital rights law, meron tayong e-commerce law. Ay, pare-pareho lang lahat ng batas na yan. May kanya-kanyang weight yan pag violate natin. Ang trabaho ng Information Security Management System nyo is i-enforce, tulungan i-enforce, no? At sundan yung mga batas na yun. Now, iba-ibang industriya, may mga dagdag yan ng mga regulasyon. Eh, kanya-kanya na yan. That's why we need to understand ano yung mga regulations, batas na applicable to our organization para makatulong si ISMS paano i-comply yun. In the end, if you do have an ISMS, the organization will be resilient enough na walang masamang mangyayari sa kanila o walang masamang mangyayari sa kanilang information. Ergo, the organization has peace of mind for the stakeholders, directors, clients, and all employees working sa organization. Now, pagtayo ng ISMS. Sabi ng iba, mahirap magtayo ng ISMS. To be honest about it, it does need work and commitment. It does need a lot of support. But we recommend 8 steps to get you fully implementing your ISMS all the way, including passing the certification program for ISO 27001. The steps you see before you are project initiation, definition, risk assessment, risk management, training and awareness, preparing for the audit, the actual audit, and promise continually improving the system. To start off, when you implement an ISMS, most organizations will treat it as a project. You cannot say, tara, mag-ISMS tayo, utos mo sa isang tao, and then hindi mo na alam kung anong nangyayari. Walang direksyon, walang deadline, walang plano kung hanggang saan ninyo gagawin yan. Okay? Project initiation is where you address all the preparations needed to get your ISMS initially established. We need a few things when we start that project. That would be senior management's commitment and the team you assign to actually do the legwork of putting up the ISMS. Senior management commitment is important because sila ang magbibigay ng mga resources, sila magbibigay ng suporta, sila ang magde-decide, magbibigay ng direksyon, mag-authorize ng lahat ng pangangailangan ng ISMS. As a matter of fact, senior management, the highest level, the executive office, owns the highest policy that you can find, information security policy. The project team now is where you find the members of the information security management team. Initially, they're a project team, but at the end of your implementation, you become the owners of the system. What we need is to put up an information security management team. A team headed by a champion, like what all ISO says. May leader yan. Ang ISMS ay magkakaroon ng information security officer. Officer, management representative, CIO, whatever you call it, basta siya ang hepe at ulo ng information security management system. Hindi to one-man army, hindi niya kaya mag-isa to. Kailangan niya ng mga tao. Maraming controls na kailangan bantayan, from technical to non-technical. And like I mentioned earlier, holistic yan. It involves everybody's commitment. The teams will be taken from the entire organization and will help support the successful implementation of the programs na sinet out ni ISMS to protect the organization. Now, once we have prepared and initiated our project for implementing ISMS, we need to know where, who, what will be included in the implementation. I mentioned earlier, best practice sa ISMS should be holistic. But also remember that in ISO certification, you are given the option na mamili ng target scope. Okay? Pwedeng si IT lang ang magpa-ISO 27000. Pwede yun. Pwedeng kalahati ng kumpanya. Pwedeng head office lang. Pwedeng head office at saka 3 regional office. Whatever is your decision, ISMS definition is where you find the scoping documents declaring kung anong coverage sa implementation yun, information security. Kung anong dineclare mo sa dokumentong yan, kasama yan sa implementation ng ISMS. Kung anong nilabas mo dyan, hindi yan kasama sa trabaho ng ISMS team. Meaning, pag dumating ang certification auditor, kung ano lang ang dineclare mo sa loob ng iyong definition, yun lang ang checkin ng auditor. Which means, if pumasa ka, the certificate will only hold the title of whatever's in the scope. So, if you only have the head office certified, sa certificate nyo, head office lang ang nakalagay sa certificate. If you say head office in all 300 branches, de lahat ng 300 branches, kasama sa certificate. Choose wisely on how you select your scope. Consider the goals, objective of having an ISMS, the scopes, limits, boundaries, interfaces, dependencies, what are included, what are excluded, and the business justifications, and consider what your products and services and your processes are. This must be declared in the ISMS definition. Now, an ISMS intends to address risk that can harm information. Correct. It's the basic definition for information security. But before you install or implement information security controls, the first thing to do is perform risk assessment. Most organizations don't even know how to perform a risk assessment. If you're lucky, your organization has an ERM department. But given that, not all ERM support the requirements of an ISMS. What you need to do is establish an agreed framework of how to perform risk analysis and risk assessments in your organization. Because before we develop the controls na kailangan natin to protect us, we need to know kung sino ang kalaban. The risk. The risk assessment will give you an opportunity to realize ano-ano ang mga risk na nasa inyong kumpanya na maaari kayong saktan. Mabibigyan kayo ng opportunity malaman kung gaano kadalasan man yan sa inyo. At saka mabibigyan kayo ng pagkakataon to make a decision on what, how to manage yung risk na yan. Risk assessment or risk is the genesis of your information security control. May pinagbabasihan yung control mo na yan. Ano ang kalaban yan? In risk assessment, the end result of your risk assessment report gives you a picture of your risk landscape. Like I mentioned earlier, mabigyan kayo ng pagkakataon to decide what to do about it. There are 4 options when addressing or mitigating risk sa ISMS nyo. Specifically, sa ISO 27001. You are given the option to reduce the risk, accept the risk, avoid the risk, or transfer the risk. Sa madaling salita, you can decide whether yung risk na nakita mo ay babawasan niyo yung sakit o yung sama o yung dalas na maaaring mangyari sa inyo, or you can simply agree na pag tayo ay tinamaan, masakta na tayo, para bang kung tayo masusunugan, masunugan na tayo. Accept yun. Maaring avoid. Kung nakita mo nang diyan ka maglalagay ng mga gamit, diyan pwedeng nakawin yan, huwag mo diyan ilagay. Avoid yun. And we have the basic transfer. Kaya ka nga may insurance company. Sila mananagot ng risk. Pinasa mo yung accountability ng risk sa iba. The decision must be made by the ISMS team and presented to senior management for approval. Wherever ang naging approval ng yung senior management, becomes the end resulting control later on na iro-roll out ng ISMS team nyo. Now, in risk management, if you do roll out your agreed actions on how to address risk, it means na nagkaroon kayo ng risk treatment. Every particular agreed action is now written in a risk action plan. Each plan is carried out accordingly. Plans could contain like, kailangan meron tayong firewall para hindi tayo ma-hack. So therefore, ang plano is bumili ng firewall, mag-install ng firewall. Ayan. Or, maaaring ang plano is, pintuan natin sa harap, walang gwardya, kahit sino makakapasok. So, ang action natin, to reduce risk, lagyan natin ng gwardya, checkin niya yung mga gamit, titignan niya kung may dalang masama yung mga tao, at titignan niya kung may mahusay na ID yung papasok. Yan ang mga controls. Once you establish all of this risk action coming from the risk treatment, at ni-roll out mo lahat yan, the one thing na importante sa ISMS is ipaalam ninyo sa lahat ng tao ano ang kanilang role and responsibility to support the security controls na sinalang mo. Masama kasi yung magsasabi ka ng policy tayo na bawal ang USB. Pero hindi mo naman pinaalam sa mga tao ninyo na bawal gumamit na USB. Okay? Training and awareness is entirely about that. The awareness campaign was intended to educate every single entity within your organization matuto about the agreed controls, about the agreed policies, about the implemented security controls sa inyong kumpanya. The campaign continuously tries to convince people to better themselves in order to help support the controls to make it effective. Training improves the competency of the people in understanding better the security controls. It also helps the ISMS team become more competent in performing yung trabaho nila as members of the management system. So, kung meron kang incident management team as part of your ISMS at hindi sila marunong mag-manage ng incident, bigyan mo ng training para matutong mag-handle ng incident o malaman nila ang tamang proseso ng incident management. So, training and awareness is important sa mundo ng ISMS. So, matter of fact, kung kayo ay magpapacertify, the training and awareness is required to be performed every year. Hence, the refresher's course for the awareness every year. Now, the audit. If you do take an ISO 27001 and you do want to comply with it, all the actions you did earlier must be mapped out on the requirements for 27001. To be honest, there is 114 security controls that the standard is recommending. And if you intend to pass certification, you must try to implement those 114 controls unless you have a really good business justification of why the controls do not apply to your organization. True enough, iba-iba naman ang industriya, iba-iba naman ang produkto. Hindi naman lahat ng controls bagay sa inyo. Although hindi malaking porsyento yun. Minsan 2-3 lang. Which means majority talaga dyan, mag-a-apply sa inyo. The 114 controls are divided actually in 14 domains. Para may understanding tayo. The 14 domains represent areas from and involve areas such as HR controls, controls for people. These are security controls for hiring and termination. We have administrative and physical controls, controls which address protecting the physical attribute of the office and all physical equipment within the organization. We have controls for IT specifically, lalo na sa applications development. We have controls for the software development life cycle and the programmer's team. We have controls for communication. Kung gumagamit kayo ng Facebook, gumagamit kayo ng email, di ba? Kasama lahat yan sa loob ng domain yan. We have controls for incident management because ISMS needs to have a team who is ready to address kapag tinamaan kayo ng risk. We also have a domain for business continuity because if ever in the event tinamaan tayo ng disaster, lalaban at lalaban ang kumpanya para hindi siya masaktan. These domains are covered in the 27001. And it has to be assessed on how this will be implemented within an organization based on the risk assessment na ginawa niyo earlier. Now, if you map yung inyong mga action plans dun sa mga requirements of 27001 at nahuli ninyo yung 114 controls, handa na kayo magpa-audit sa 27001. Now, as an ISO, there are a few other requirements para mag-comply lang kayo dyan and prepare for the certification audit. One of them is you need to establish an internal audit team to actually have an internal audit process. So besides sa ISMS team nyo, ngayon meron pa kayong ISMS internal audit team, which is by practice totally independent from the ISMS team. The internal audit team must be competent, trained, educated in performing audit. Then, they need to audit the implementation of your internal ISMS. Madaling salita, may nag-check kung maganda at nagpo-comply yung ISMS sa loob ng kumpanya. But, ang nag-check internal sa inyo. The 27001 also recommends na lahat ng maging resulta ng audit na yan, kailangan ayusin. Kailangan mag-provide ng corrective actions. We need to have formal processes how we fix lahat ng mga non-conformances at hindi nagpo-comply sa loob ng inyong kumpanya. In preparing for audit, these are the requirements para kayo ay mag-comply sa 27001. O syempre, marami pang requirements ng ISO tulad ng formal documentation control, including management review, and a few other mandatory procedures the ISO is expecting you to have. Magpo tayo ng standard so we would know how to comply. Now, if ever, tayo nga naman ay nag-comply sa ating implementation ng ISMS based sa 27001, handa na kayong tumawag ng auditor.
Ted, yeah, good thing you
Oh,
mentioned.
yes.
Yeah, good thing. I think that's quite clear. No, you've mentioned about the 114 controls and 14 domains. So it's non-negotiable. These are non-negotiable, meaning you cannot proceed to certification audit unless you have established the 114 controls and 14 domains, right?
Yes. Ito, sobrang totoo yan.
Okay.
As an insight, meron na akong mga na-meet na companies who were confident na meron silang ISMS na compliant sa 27001, pero hindi sila gumamit ng standard at naniniwala sila na lahat ng controls na meron na sila, best practices. Confidence ng mga security team.
Okay.
So sabi nila, kaya na namin yan na mag-isa namin. Kami na mag-i-implement yan. Araw dumating yung auditor, naniwala kayo, the report had 33 major non-conformances. Kasi hindi talaga sila pumasa. Napahiya naman yung team. Kawawa naman yung team, di ba? Naglakas loob naman sila eh. But, hindi natin pwedeng ganun ang gagawin natin. We have to do this professionally. Di ba? Wag basta-basta.
It's good na, maging confident, but sometimes delikado din kung that confidence is kind of misplaced. Anyway, Going back to the domains, so for example, at the moment, there are a lot of service providers right now for cloud storage or cloud system. It's out in the market. There's so many companies, and of course, our clients representing their companies. That's where they store, I think, most of their information or data in the cloud. So where does this fall under the 14 domains, Ted? And maybe you can give some probably tips or advice on how do we ensure that these are controlled or how do we make sure that this is secure?
Yung cloud na yan, lately lang naman yan pumasok. It is a third-party provided service. Under ISO 27001, that goes under the communication domain, especially the publicly available communication area. Kasama niya ang mga controls for tulad ng Wi-Fi, voice over IP, VPN, and all the other stuff, including yung Facebook. Okay? Now, yung cloud computing o yung cloud service na yan, third party yan. The challenge here is hindi sa inyo yan. The requirement ngayon is kung third party yan, i-validate niyo yung security controls ng third party provider niyo. They need to prove sa iyo na sumasang-ayon sila sa requirement niyo kung paano nyo gusto protektahin ang kumpanya niyo using their service. Most cloud providers provide the documentation and the agreement to address that. Pero if your cloud provider does not want you to know, does not want you to share, does want not to take responsibility to service, lumipat na kayo ng provider. Hindi dahil yan ay cloud provider, lahat yan okay. Iba-iba ang third-party provider. Mamili kayo ng mabuti. Only the ones na makakapag-fit sa expectation ninyo based on how you see risk and the requirements of the business ang kailangan ninyo kunin. So, hindi pare-pareho yan.
Thank you, Ted.
Okay. Now, like I mentioned, 114 controls actually cover everything. All expanse of whatever you have sa organization ninyo. Pati nga paggamit ng inyong mga sasakyan, naka-cover pa nga yun. Now, once you mapped out all your controls and you have passed through the preparation stage, wherein you perform internal audits, management review, control all your documentation records, diba? Do the monitoring, do the regular review, perform the regular awareness, provide all the trainings. Okay, merong annual training calendar dapat yan. After you have complied with that requirement, ngayon, may level ka na of confidence to call the certification auditor. Maraming auditor dyan sa labas. We will not tell you sino. Pwede kayo mamili na gusto nyo. Kasi pare-pareho lang yan pagka mag-audit. Walang, si ganito mas madaling mag-audit. Eto mahirap. Walang ganun. Pare-pareho yan. Strictly speaking, hindi nila pwedeng baliin yan. Because lisensya naman nila ang sasabi. Now, when they perform certification audit, tinawag mo sila para mag-audit sa inyo. Dalawang stages yan. Dalawang stages. The documentation audit and the implementation audit. Ano yung documentation audit? Tawag dyan ng auditor natin is phase 1 o stage 1. The stage 1 audit is a documentation audit, which means it's an audit kung saan literally titignan nila, babasahin nila, uusisyohin nila lahat ng documentation ninyo. Babasahin nila lahat ng mga policies nyo, guidelines nyo, standards na sinulat nyo para sa ISMS that supports all of your security controls. Susundan nila yung mga proseso na sinulat ninyo, work instruction. Yung work instruction nga ng security guard, babasahin nila yun. Hindi kayo exempted doon. Hihingi kasi security control ng security guard. It must have documentation. Babasahin nila yung mga agreements, contracts, NDA. Tandaan mo yung cloud computing na yan, walang papeles yan. Malabong kausap yan. Magiging finding yan. So, I never said this is true paper. It could be soft copy or hard copy. You can be paperless office, but documentation still exists in whatever form. We need to maintain that. The 27,001 requires you to establish an inventory of all of that, continuously maintain that inventory, and control, literally control everything in it. This is the documentation audit. Depending on the size of a company, a small company to medium scale will probably have the stage 1 running at 3 to 4 days. That's one site. Hopefully, you don't have like 300 sites kasi lahat yun mabiyahe nila at 2 days to 3 days per site. Given that, yes, one organization na maliit, 3 to 4 days documentation audit lang yan. If they do get it in 2 to 1 days, ibig sabihin makamalit lang naman yung scope nito. O malit lang yung kumpanya. The documentation audit will provide about what are the non-conformance tests from the standard. It is required na kailangan ninyong i-correct yan o bigyan ng corrective action before you proceed to stage 2. Now, stage 2 is where you find the implementation audit. The auditors will now visit your organization again, this time on a longer period, probably 4 to 5 days, depending on the size of the organization. The objective, they want to see the implementation of all the documentation they read before. They will do physical checks, oculars, walkthrough, and sampling of all the security process and policies that you actually did implement and roll out. Again, at the end of the stage 2, they will have an audit report telling you items that are non-conforming to the standard. We hope it is a short list. But in the end, whatever comes out doesn't mean you automatically fail. Some companies have probably a list of 15 minor non-conformances and they still pass certification. Well, there's no real rate for that certification process. But as long as you do not have major or non-conformances that impact the organization in a really bad way, you will pass certification. These are the 2 stages needed for the certification audit. Now, at the end of stage 2, literally, sa huling oras, ng huling araw ng punta ng auditor sa inyong opisina, babasahin nila sa inyo yung report. Kahit ba may finding yan, maaari nilang sabihin sa inyo, sa huling minuto, bago sila umuwi, na i-recommenda kayo for certification. Meaning, pumasa na kayo sa certification. 30 to 45 days later, ililipad yung papeles sa inyo, makukuha ninyo sa opisina ninyo, certified na yung company nyo. The objective is after stage 2, makuha ninyo yung certificate na yan. Pag umuwi yan na hindi nagbitaw ng salita ng ganyan, hindi kayo pumasa sa stage 2. Pero, pag bibigyan kayo ng pagkakataon, ayusin yan up to a maximum of 6 months. Okay? After 6 months, re-audit ulit yan, bayad kayo ulit. Basically, that's how the system works. Now, if ever pumasa kayo, hindi to one-time, big time. Importante na you continually improve yung ISMS nyo. Meaning, ano sinimulan nyo? Aalagaan nyo. The auditors will return every year for a surveillance audit for the next 3 years. This is the assurance that whatever you started is continually implemented and operating. And by measure, it is continually increasing in effectivity. Meaning, mas gumaganda ang protection habang tumatagal ang panahon. You need to continually improve your ISMS. You need to check your policies, establish and re-establish your objectives, ensure management has transparency for decisions, provide corrective actions to all audit results, internal, analyze all incidents currently happening, and ensure that all your corrective and preventive actions are performed. Walang naiwan, walang natira. Continual improvement is a non-stop race. Eventually, once you start, you never stop continually improving the system.
All right.
Now, the ISO 27001 is optional. It is voluntary. If your organization wants to be credible for security practices, then we can recommend you taking the standard. Now, if you don't know how to put up one, it's a good advice to seek advice from professionals and consultants knowledgeable on how to draw a roadmap for you to comply with the standard. But it is still voluntary. Maraming kumpanya nag-implement ng 27001, strictly speaking, complying sa standard, pero hindi sila nagpa-audit. Yun. Because they wanted to secure yung kanilang operations and they wanted to adopt best practices kasi. Whatever happens, it is important na mag-implement kayo ng measures to protect your organization. Makakabuti yan sa inyo. And considering nagbabago yung risk landscape regularly, kahit ano pa kayong industriya, importante na meron pa kayong information security na ninigurado sa haba ng panahon, may nagtitingin at may nagmamanage at nagmi-mitigate ng mga risk na yan. Yan.
That's a very good point, Ted. And you know, just to add to that, good thing you mentioned that if you're a company right now and you're here in this webinar and maybe you're planning to be certified, we would strongly recommend that kasi iba yung may third party talaga na audit, someone saying objectively that you have met all the requirements of ISMS, no? the 114 controls and the 14 domains. So and on the other hand, you can also choose not to be certified, meaning you can just align your information security management with the standard itself. I noticed there's also a question in the group chat asking about ISMS. Is it on top? Is ISMS on top of ISO? So just to clarify, no, ISMS is an ISO standard. Okay, so ISMS is an ISO standard. It is ISO 27001 version of 2013. Ted, is there any updates yet, or is it that's the latest version, right? The 2013.
Well, nagkaroon ng draft for 2018 pero hindi naman ni-release, which means nauurong na yung date ng draft. The iOS, so yung organization na nagpa-publish niya, regularly changes it every 3 years. Unless bagay pa yung standard sa atin lahat at wala naman nagreklamo, they maintain the current best practice as long as they can. Ngayon, pag marami na nagsabing hindi na bagay, lumalabas na yung bagong version.
Yeah. Ted, let me just quickly throw a question here. Going back again to that cloud computing, cloud storage. If it's private, how do you control that? If it's a private cloud, it's not a third-party provider.
Well, when you say you own the cloud, the company owns the cloud, you can totally control it. But you have to establish the controls of controlling it. You need to control the access to it, the infrastructure of it, the platform you use for it. So, magkakaroon ka ngayon ng mga security controls for it, technical, and you need to have documentation on how to manage your controls na yon, including how to operate it ng mabuti. Kasi private na kayo may-ari. Inyo kasi yun. Mas maganda ngayon kasi hawak ninyo eh. Ngayon, you know, outsourcing services like that are a business decision because sometimes cost justifiable naman yun. At saka risk accountable naman kasi yung risk accountability tinatransfer kasi if they see it that way. Kaya maganda rin kasi outsource yan. But not in all cases. So you gotta talk to your third party muna. Or not, just put up your own. It's totally your choice.
All right, thank you, Ted.
So, actually, do you have any questions? Nasa dulo na tayo.
All right. I'm scanning the chat group right now. There's a quick question here, Ted, in documentation. So they're asking, can you give us an example? What should be included in the documentation of ISMS?
Magandang tanong yan. Marami nagtatanong yan. For starters, ang ISMS could contain definitely policies and sub-policies. The policies and sub-policies support syempre yung mga rule sets o yung mga do's and don'ts para sa kumpanya with regards to addressing risk to the company. So, policies tulad ng bring your own device policy, o, di ba? O yung bawal na USB. So, okay, doon talaga napupunta yun. Sinusulat talaga yan. Other documentations are related to standards, guidelines, or implementing procedures. Procedures tulad ng how to perform change management, no? Because change management is a requirement of the standard. No? Or the process of how to perform capacity management. No? So may mga proseso kasi yan. Kailangan documented yan. Kailangan establish din yan. Now, these are the documents ng ISMS, including yung operating procedures ng kumpanya. Because if yung operating procedures sa kumpanya ginagamit para tumakbo ang kumpanya, information yon on paper. Trabaho ng information security is malaman po ano yung mga yan, ilista at protektahan. Sigurado, hindi mabago sa wala sa usapan. Questions pa?
Ted, sorry, and that's a very good question right there, and thank you for that. Thank you for that answer. Just to add to this as well, Ted. So going back to that, you've mentioned about the certification audit. So just to add to that for our audience today, if you can take note of ACE, right? So I'll write here just for your simple guidance, ACE. So as mentioned earlier by Ted, there are 2 stages of audit here, because there's a clarification here again in the chat group, the stages of certification audit. So as mentioned by Ted earlier, it comes in 2 stages, stage 1 and stage 2. So you have to pass the 2 stages of audit for you to be certified. So just to add to that, stage 1 is normally revolving around the A. What is this A? A is adequacy. What do you mean adequacy? Adequacy of documents. All right, so that's why Ted mentioned all those documents that you need to prepare, policies, procedures, manual, work instructions. All those must be put into writing in the form of ISMS manual and procedure. So one of the first criteria of audit there is actually the adequacy. Okay, adequacy of those documents. So you need to ensure that you have adequate documentation as far as ISMS is concerned. And there's a question here as well. What's our role, Ted, in ISMS? Well, Ted and I and the AGF group and team actually, what we do is we help clients like you to design, implement, document, audit your ISMS and ensure that it is compliant with ISO 27001. So that's what we do. In other words, we are ISO consultants, trainers, and auditors. So going back to the ACE, the next criteria there for audit is the compliance. So C stands for compliance. So after you have adequately documented all your ISMS procedures, manuals, controls, guidelines, you implement it, of course, and we check, we audit for compliance. Meaning, are we following what's written in the document? Are we implementing the procedures? Are we implementing the controls? All right. And then lastly, of course, the last criteria is E, which is effectiveness. Now that we have implemented these controls, we check whether these controls are effective. Okay, have we actually reduced risk? Have we actually prevented or avoided data breach or loss of confidentiality of information? So you think of this 3 criteria: A for adequacy, C for compliance, E for effectiveness. That's how we check your information security management system. And as ISMS consultants, we guide you in the whole process of designing your ISMS, implementing it, and auditing it for it to be ready for third-party certification should you plan to really proceed for certification. Otherwise, as mentioned by Ted earlier, you may also opt not to be certified. Instead, you just align your security management system into this best practice called information security management system. All right. I hope we answered your question there. We have another follow-up question, Ted.
Yes.
Risk assessment and risk management was mentioned in the process. Is it a requirement that the company also comply with ISO 31? Will this be included as part of the audit? So good question, because ISO 31 is risk management. Go ahead, Ted.
31,000 ERM yan.
Yeah, enterprise.
ERM yan. It's enterprise-wide risk management. Ang laman ng 31,000 is the framework for performing an organization with ERM. It is stated na maganda sana to adopt best practices for risk management. Oo. So pwede. Pero hindi requirement na kailangan yung risk management mo ay ISO certified. According sa 27,001, pwedeng ikaw ang mag-develop ng framework mo on how to perform risk assessment, risk management. Ngayon, if you could not establish your own framework, sinasabi ng standard, then you feel free to adopt common ones available. So yung 31,000, isa lang yan. Although, I think mas maganda yung 27,005. Kasi 27,005 yung parang 27,001. Para lang malinaw. Di ba? No, mas maganda yun actually. Or you can adopt any other risk management methodologies tulad ng Octave, Cobra, marami naman yan actually. So, pwede ka mag-adapt ng iba. Ngayon, pag dumating yung auditor, nakita niya yung in-adapt mong framework, ginagamit mo, as long as mapakita mong naintindihan mong gamitin yan, lalo na tama yung report, may i-defend mo, papasa ka doon. Huwag kang gagamit ng framework na hindi mo naintindihan because babagsak ka sa competency naman. Magiging problema naman yun. The other way around.
All right. Thank you, Ted. Yeah, so again, Ms. Mary Grace Postor, thank you for the question. Again, ISO 31 is not necessarily a requirement in certification for ISO 27001. There's no better time than to implement ISMS than now, considering that most companies right now are migrating to digital. So most organizations, big or small, are transforming their operations, their processes into digital. And when you do that, there's a corresponding risk as well, right? So now you have to make sure that you protect your data, you protect your information, because you have placed all this in the digital realm. So okay, sige. So are there any other questions or clarifications?
So, with regards lang dyan sa current situation natin, kahit na nasa crisis tayo at may pandemic, doesn't mean iniwan yung information security. Doesn't mean just because remote working or work at home ang mga tao na hindi applicable yun. Huwag tayo magkamali doon. As a matter of fact, teleworking is actually part of the requirement of the 27,001. This is a good time to formulate, to establish programs, establish controls for teleworking activities. It's a perfect time. And how you work it now securely is actually good for a basis of starting compliance with the requirement of the standard. Is some of the domains mako-cover nun. So which means it's still applicable right now. You can start now with what you have and how you currently operate. Then later on, pag back to normal ka, meron ka lang ginawa for just in case of future, mag-telework kayo ulit, di ba? And then you add the missing one based on how you operate for current new back to normal state.
Yeah, very well said. I remember yesterday we had a video conference with some of the heads of offices, and I asked them this question. By the way, it's most of these were attended by head of offices. So I asked them this question: which in your or who in your organization led the digital transformation? A, CEO; B, CTO; C, COVID-19. So they all said, COVID-19.
COVID.
Everybody is migrating their processes into the digital platform. And once we do that, we all know that the next issue here is how do we protect this information. We have another question here, Ted. Meron po bang IT lang na ISO which could cover all? I'm not quite sure if I understand that question. Meron po bang IT lang na ISO which could cover all? I think he's asking about different...
sige, ganito yan. Kung IT lang alone, oo, pwede yung ISO 27 naman sa kanya. Pwede kasi IT naman siya anyway, doon yung information. Lalo kung heart ng operations yun. O pwedeng yung ISO 27001 sa kanya. If it's security, if it's security. Now, if you are talking of other ISO na bagay sa IT, meron pang iba. Kaya nga papasok yung ISO 20000, yung IT Service Management, di ba? Yan naman ay ISO para sa best practice na kung paano mag-operate ang IT efficiently in providing services. Diba? Ganun lang naman yun. So there are other standards.
Okay.
Other IT sa ibang organization actually adopted the 9001. For starters, they wanted to take an easier to adapt ISO to see how it works sa kanila. The QMS too, the quality management, will work pa rin sa kanila. It's still the same anyway. So, marami pang ibang ISO.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So that is correct. No, there are about how many 20,000 standards, by the way, to start with.
Madami yan.
There are 20,000 ISO standards, and there are several
Yes.
IT standards, by the way. So some of those were mentioned by Ted. And speaking of standards, time check, Ted. It's 10:02. So
Yes.
as always, we overshot our timeline.
Baka may questions pa kasi. If may questions, okay lang.
So we have very
Ayan, I think there's another question.
very good questions here. So speaking of standards, different standards, next Thursday, let me take this opportunity to invite all of you, those who are in the audience right now. You may want to also attend. I think that's Thursday, Mike, if I'm not mistaken. We have this management representative skills development. So if you happen to be the management rep of your ISO standard, whether it's ISO 9001, ISMS, or other standards, that webinar is for you and it's for free. So we hope to see you there. And Ted, I think
Wait, I think there's a question. There's a question.
Is there?
It popped out. What ISO certification is best for a BPO?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Sa haba ng ginagawa ko to, tatlo ang importante. Although sometimes apat. Meron silang 27,001. Sigurado yan. Clients abroad require it. Sigurado yan. The other one is 22,301. Business continuity. Yun ang problema eh. Ikaw outsource, ikaw ang mawawala sa crisis. Ayaw ng mga taga-abroad doon. So yung pangalawa. Yung pangatlo is actually IT service management, 20,000. Because most BPO is IT-centric naman. And they need to address a lot of mga issues how to operate technology. So, at best, tatlo talaga yan. Yung pang-apat na kung minsan kinukuha nila, yun yung 9,001. QMS. And like I mentioned, kinukuha nila yan for a startup ISO. Kasi mas madaling i-implement yun. Kasi naman tatlo anyway. After nun, any other ISO will come depending na lang sa requirement ng clients ninyo. Remember, masusunod yung business, kung anong hinihingi ng customer ninyo, yun ang i-address natin.
Yep. So for BPO, you may want to start with the foundation standard, which is the QMS, no, Quality Management System. That's ISO 9001. There are a lot of other standards. If you've heard of COPC, the Contact Operation Performance Center, so these also are really good best practices for BPOs. But yeah, Ted and I would strongly recommend that you start with QMS. It's a very good foundation. And yeah, feel free to join us next Thursday, because we're also going to talk about QMS and how can you implement QMS as a QMR. QMR, of course, is a quality management representative. No? So, Ted, I'm afraid we have to that's all the time we have, right?
Yes.
So let me check. Do we still have additional question? I think that's it, Ted. So, and there are still people actually trying to log in.
Really? Sayang naman. Kumuha ka na lang ng part 2.
Come up with the second part. So for all those who took their time and joined this webinar, thank you very much. And please keep in touch with Mike and Leanne. They're part of our team, so they can invite you to our next succeeding webinars. And please kindly take the time as well to quickly just fill up an exit feedback or survey form, so that we can also know what your thoughts are about this webinar. And we will also issue certificates of attendance for this webinar, by the way. So all you need to do is just fill up the exit survey form. You coordinate with Mike and Leanne. They are here in this group. And so we can also send to you your certificate of attendance for this webinar. So with that, thank you so much. And we hope to be working with you. Should there be an opportunity, let us know. it would be our pleasure to support you in your ISMS design and implementation. Have a good day and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much, Ted. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Fantastic webinar. Thank you, Ted. See you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you sa inyo lahat. Thank you.